Can we transition that into like appearance fees and tie that together? Because I do think that's a really interesting side of it. Something I didn't really know a whole lot about until you started kind of telling me about it. How do appearance fees come about? How do they calculate how those are? Are the checks given to you like you're a band and you have a rider with it? Or like, how do those work, for the guys that have to show up to a 250 versus the guy that gets paid?
Yep. So quickly, we'll get into that in 1 second, because I think the appearance fees is largely completely unknown. People know that people get paid to wear stuff and whatever. Anyway, so appearance fees. So basically what they are, for people who don't understand it when we say it, is there are tournaments. And basically outside of slams and Masters 1000s, which you kind of, if you qualify for, you have to play a certain number of them as per kind of being a part of the ATP tour, being eligible for benefits and yada, yada, yada. These are, you kind of sign away. So thousands and slams, no one's getting paid to play in those. Just simply, you see someone, top seed in Rome, they're not getting paid. Obviously, you're not getting paid to play in Wimbledon. Anything outside of those is open season. So for the longest time, Memphis was a 500 event in America. They knew that I probably wanted to play that tournament. It was indoors, it fit me, and it was an 1.5-hour flight or 2-hour flight from Austin. Made complete sense in schedule. So I wasn't in a position to rake them over the coals for it, but there was 1,000% always going to be a 6-figure plus deal just to sign up for the tournament before I hit a ball. And it ranged from like when I was first on tour, you'd get, $50,000 deals to come play. And then later on in your career, you go and play in places like Abu Dhabi, where the government is paying you, and it's an obscene amount of money, right? It's just, and I'll tell you the max, the max number, and a specific example with Abu Dhabi one year, which will make all of you hate me. So appearance fees basically, simply as I'm coming up, I basically get a secondary look at a deal depending on if Andre or Pete has entered the event in the American market. So a San Jose, a Memphis, a Indianapolis at the time, a Washington, D.C. Early in my career, if Andre enters, or Pete enters, if they both enter, I'm getting less because they're the priority. That's who are going to get the paychecks. As that shifts, Pete retires, I'm in a better situation. I am now call number 2 for a tournament in America. Andre retires. I am the call. And without giving myself too much credit, I could dictate terms of a tournament existing sometimes. And you try to balance that with... take Indianapolis, like I stopped playing it. It was gone a couple years later. I'm sure there are other factors. So all of that as a player, you are taking into consideration, does it fit in the schedule? Am I only playing this for the appearance fee? Is it a tournament I like? Do I have to travel? If I have to travel, so if I'm traveling across the globe to, Asia, or somewhere where it's not a 2-hour flight, that number goes up for an appearance fee. And then sometimes, you can sign a 3 or 4 year deal. I think Roger at the end of his career had a lifetime deal with Hala, and I can only imagine what that would be. We're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it's this kind of complete open market Wild West thing for appearance fees. Alcaraz wins the US Open a couple years ago. He's getting paid a lot more on a week-to-week basis just to show up. And then from the tournament side, you have players that will show up, and if they've agreed to come to your tournament, they are going to play their asses off. That normally serves you well 5 years later, when maybe you're not the hottest ticket on tour, but they know that you will show up and be a professional, versus sometimes you could be the hottest player on earth and tank matches. And, there have been many examples of guys taking appearance fees, flying somewhere, putting in an average effort, and the tournament still has to pay them, which is a problem. But then as soon as that player, is on the edge of getting paid or offered an appearance fee, they normally didn't get offered it anymore. But it is open season. It is a massive business. And so when you look at career earnings, I would say most of the tournaments I got appearance fees at, if I won the tournament, the prize money was less than I was getting paid just to show up.
The irony of all this is that the smaller events that are more financially cash strapped and don't have the big media rights deals, they're the ones that have to pay for appearances. There's one exception that is a bit of an open secret. And if you're a very, very top player, it's not directly from the tournament, but there are some fees available in Australia for top players that I gather are part public money, and they involve some other appearances on the side. It's a great hush-hush because, only the very tippy-top players avail themselves, but they're seven figures. I mean, there's significant fees. Also, obviously, appearance fees don't appear in any sort of prize money calculation. So when we say John McEnroe made $12.5 million for his career, or Carlos Alcaraz went over the $30 million mark last week, and so did Iga, that doesn't include these appearance fees. What I'm curious about, we've heard some of these fees are $20,000. If you'll come play Houston, we'll hook you up. Others are in seven figures. I mean, Roger wasn't playing for less than seven figures. I'm curious what comes with that fee, because if I'm the tournament director and I'm paying one player more than the winner gets, I want him in my doubles draw. I want him talking to my sponsors. I want some sort of non-disparagement clause. So if the court catches fire, he still has to say it's a beautiful night and I'm thrilled to be playing in Cleveland. When you went to Indianapolis, to pick my hometown, but a random example, what did you have to do apart from enter the tournament to get that fee that you got?
Well, one, commit early, because what they have to do is they have to establish a contract with you. And then a lot of times, so Indianapolis, I would finish playing it 1 year, and then it was kind of a negotiation for the next year, because the sooner they had me, then they could go to local businesses, sponsors. RCA was a sponsor there for a long time, and say, if you have the top draw on the American side for, a cup of coffee outside of Andre didn't stop playing Indianapolis. So then I was kind of the guy they had to go after. They're going to be able to see, one, the value of committing early so that they can kind of use your name to secure sponsors. A lot of times clinics involved, a lot of times different press obligations. So instead, like, the only thing mandatory is for every player is if there's pre-tournament press and you get requested, that's generally what's required of a player going in. So whether it's an appearance quickly for the host sponsor, RCA, any private capital that's been put in, all those boxes are checked and pre-negotiated. Doubles, it just depends, but that is a sticking point. I don't remember that being like a pass-fail for any deal to get done. I know that there are some appearance fees that like half would be paid. And then for people that went out and tanked, which I hope and know that I was never going to be a worry. If I showed up to play, I gave my appearance fee back a couple of times because I thought I gave a shitty effort, or had not a shitty effort, but I played shitty and had a bad result and offered next to no value to the tournament for that given year with ticket sales, et cetera. But all of those things are pre-negotiated. If there is an individual sponsor, so you have someone, let's just keep using Indianapolis as an example, because we can't get in trouble because they don't have a tournament anymore. If there was an individual donor who basically had a deal where, okay, fine, I'll give you $1 million for this tournament, and if you go above and beyond that million, then I get a percentage of profits past that. Great. They have everything's negotiable. They have a 9-year-old daughter who plays tennis, and part of your appearance fee is you have to hit with her for a half hour coming in. Like, what's that worth? So all of that stuff is on the table, John, but the commitments would be significantly more than, and rightfully so, than anyone else who simply just entered the event for the ability to play for points and prize money.
Would you be able to like put riders in your contracts like a band, like, blue M&Ms only? I want my own.
Yeah, what you would do, and I came out of pocket for this most of my career. It was just my personal preference that I didn't like staying at the host hotels just because I wanted some space from tennis in the event when I wasn't actually on site. So we've talked about this before. I think Kim and I got on one about this or someone, I forget who it was. Anyways, but I didn't like going down to breakfast and having to have 12 different conversations and hi hellos to so-and-so's trainer's cousin's wife. That wasn't something. So for me, it was like, okay, yeah, well, and I'd like to stay here, and that would normally be covered, unless it was sponsored by a certain hotel brand and they demand it, whatever else. But there wasn't a rider. I never wanted to, in a locker room, present as any different, outside of the bounds of what is my business. So there was nothing as far as like private locker or like any that shit I could do without. It was more just kind of the way that I like to generally operate the week. If there was a request on hotel, maybe an extra room if I had someone who wanted to come to the event, something like that. But it's not the rock star rider where you come on site and there's only orange Skittles available. I don't know that it got that far. You could probably ask for, whatever. I wanted, kind of to feel quasi normal, even if I was one of, only one or two or four people getting paid for a given event.
For a top 10 player, do you think it's fairly average or normal for, these appearance fees to outweigh their prize money throughout the course of the year for a span of time, or no?
No, I think at any given moment, I think there's probably 3 to 5 players on both tours that make like screw you type money in appearance fees. And so also it's market dependent. So the Barcelona event, all right, let's take that as a 500, middle of clay court season, historic venue, all of the things that you want in a 500 event. If Rafa decides to play, simply in a Spanish market, he can take as much of their appearance fee budget as possible. And that leaves David Ferrer with less during the prime of his career. So it doesn't depend on ranking, Mike. It probably depends on, like, Kyrgios, has never been top 10 in the world. And yet I guarantee you his appearance fees at certain events are more than, maybe the number one seed in that event. I would say more often than not in a smaller event. And now, obviously, take away the Mount Rushmores, right? Out of this conversation are Novak, Rafa, Roger, Serena, Venus, Murray Prime in Great Britain is like, forget about it. All of those players, but at the end of the day, Kornikova at the height of her career was commanding as much in appearance fees as anyone else on earth. So it's not a ranking is a part of it. Accomplishment is a part of it, but certainly not all of the conversation. Like I said, the Abu Dhabi thing, I got the biggest appearance fee of my life, right? And it's like, close to $500,000 to show up for an exhibition. I show up 2009. I think there's 6 players in the draw. They also pulled in Fed Nadal that year. It was like murderer's row of an exo, and no one's played a match coming in. Like, this is how obscene the money is and how source dependent it is. I go out, full off season of training, high expectations, play Nikolai Davydenko, and no one's there, by the way. It's all marketing. It's probably the first, I was probably a participant in sports washing before I understood what it was, John.
It's like sports washing you're describing.
Yeah, totally, completely guilty. But I didn't even know it. Honestly, I didn't know it. I go out and lose 2-2 to Davydenko. I think I was on the court for 48 minutes. Doesn't change my appearance fee. I go in because I'm like, I wouldn't mind playing another match this week. Like, I was pretty bad. Australia's 3 weeks away. I'm here anyways because I had some lose that match, and then I have a sponsor stuff for the next 3 days because they've bought those appearances, frankly. And I go in, I'm like, hey, before the semis or the finals, if you need like an undercard, 2 sets and a breaker, if there's anyone else that wants to play, that'd be great. And they go, nah, we're good. We got the publicity. We've been here. And then I kind of started understanding a little bit more. but it's they all kind of work differently. There are certain places that you can go get paid that have been paying players for a long time. Certain markets where, like all of a sudden Hala signs that long-term deal with Roger and Murray, not like he needs it. Myself, the other top players, we know there's more money available at Queens, and it's going to be there for a while because the top draw in grass court tennis for that moment in time has committed to the other side. So yay for us.